my name is Claire Fang and I'm currently a D2 at UMKC School of Dentistry here in Kansas City. So a little bit about me, I am from St. Louis, Missouri. I went to The Ohio State University for my undergrad where I majored in biology and I minored in business. During my time there, I was involved in a fellowship, I volunteered at a free health clinic, and I also mentored inner city youth kids in Columbus. And other things that I just like to do for fun, I do photography, I love traveling, and I love trying new restaurants, eating out with my friends, or even just making meals together. I don't know if I had a single aha moment that made me decide that dentistry was what I wanted to do. I think it was a bunch of small little moments and just a gradual understanding of what dentistry is and what dentistry can do is what made me interested in this profession. I remember ever since I was a kid, and then even later on when I was shadowing different dentists, just how relational they were, how great they were at not only treating patients, obviously to their oral needs, but just also making them feel heard and seen and comfortable. And I just loved the idea of being able to hold a relationship with people throughout different walks of life, and just seeing them grow and just treating them and making them the best that they can be by helping their oral health. Another thing I realized was I felt like oftentimes people, when they think medicine, they don't really think of how the mouth and our how healthy our mouth is or how healthy our teeth are can impact the rest of our body, or even just how the body can impact the mouth as well. And that was something I wanted to help, educate the community on and treat, because I feel like oftentimes our oral health is overlooked. And then, and I think I also wanted to just be in a role that was able to serve the community. And I just felt like, again, dentistry was an area that was often overlooked. It was really scary. I was scared of taking it when I was a pre-dent, because I knew that I was never great at standardized testing. So to take such a big exam like this was very daunting, but it is doable. I survived, so you definitely can survive too. So I basically ended up using DAT Bootcamp. I split an account with a couple of my friends who were also taking it that summer, and I pretty much just followed their schedule. So Ari is really great at giving you this breakdown of how to study for it, and I basically just took it and modified it day by day depending on how much content I got through and what I was behind on. So I recommend kind of following his schedule, and then I added on a couple weeks on top of that just because I knew sometimes I was a little slower when it came to learning content, or just in case life events just popped up or happened. I just to give myself extra days, it was just a peace of mind for me. And I basically treated it like a 9-to-5 job. So I was studying or learning content all day, and then in the evening I was doing practice questions, or just reviewing flashcards and stuff like that. And then the last month was basically test taking. So they give you a lot of full length exams. So my last month I was just taking full length tests, just trying to simulate a actual exam, and just get myself ready for that. And I recognize that not everyone is able to just take off a whole summer to study, but I just highly recommend whatever period or whatever block that you have during your year or school year, just to dedicate as much time as you can on the DAT, or just try to limit other responsibilities to the best that you can, because this is a very big exam and it does take a lot of time to study and prepare for. My biggest pieces of advice, I would say, don't be discouraged by your progress. I wasn't scoring where I wanted to be on all the practice exams and stuff, and it made me freak out that I wasn't going to do well in the actual DAT. But these are practice tests just to help you realize and recognize what areas of the DAT that you're struggling on, and what areas you might need to give yourself more time to go back and review. So I would just take all the questions, and if I saw a pattern on certain questions I just kept missing, I would go back to that section and review it and relearn it to make sure that I got it. so that the next time it came around, I wouldn't miss it, or I would understand the concept a little bit better. And another big thing, I feel like the DAT is just a big mental game as well. I just felt defeated so many times when I was studying. And I think the best piece of advice I had was just like remembering like why I'm putting myself through this, because the average person would not put themselves through this strenuous exam. So, you know, why are you doing this? Why are you taking the DAT? Like, just reminding myself like the reasons that I wanted to do dentistry helped me push through and continue studying even when it was really hard. Definitely take rest days as well. I always gave myself one day off. You know, if you're too anxious and you don't want to take off an entire day, that's fine, but just giving yourself some block of time throughout the week where you can just not think about it. And I feel like that helps you come back to studying with a fresher mind as well. So it will be fine. If there's a will, there's a way, and you will definitely reach dental school if you persevere and you just don't give up. I think my DAT score and my extracurriculars were the strong aspects of my application. So I didn't have a really high GPA when I was in college. It was sometimes at the average, sometimes slightly below the average when it came to the different like dental school statistics that they sent out. So I really wanted to do well in my DAT to kind of balance out my GPA when it came to the academic side. But I will say like dental school applications are super well-rounded and holistic, and they look at everything. So not just the academics. So while I highly recommend to do the best that you can in getting, you know, good grades and getting a good DAT score, that's just one part of your application. I would also really emphasize the importance of just everything else too. So like extracurriculars, your shadowing experiences, volunteering experiences. Like I said earlier, a big part of why I wanted to do dentistry was to help the community out and to really, I think, educate others the importance of our oral health. And I spent a lot of time volunteering in college, whether it was the free health clinic or even just spending time, you know, mentoring kids. I was in pre-dental club at my college, but I was not really involved in that. I ended up being more involved in all the other clubs that I mentioned. And I think that was also a big selling point because I was so involved in those clubs and I held leadership roles throughout my 4 years there that I just gained a lot of experience, whether that was leadership experience, just understanding more about public health, or whatever. I just had a lot to say. So when it came to writing about it on my application or even talking to my interviewers about it, I was able to show my passion through that and kind of the reasons why I was involved in those clubs and why I did those things and what those clubs taught me and how they helped shape me into who I was, and how that also kind of helped shape me into being a better dentist in the future when I graduate. So I think just really finding, you know, passionate or just finding those clubs that you're passionate about, or the reasons behind it you're passionate of, and just really investing in those. They don't even have to be dental related, but just, you know, anything can teach you and how to be a better person and growing your interpersonal skills, and just teaching you life lessons that you can, you know, take when you become a dentist. So yeah, I think those were my biggest selling points, was just my involvement in my community, and then also my DAT score. I will say, if there are certain dental schools that you are interested in, if they offer any pre-dental days, I would recommend going to those, reaching out to them. I think I was just very timid and shy when I was in college, so I did not do that, and I wish I did, because I think that obviously just networking is always a good idea, and that's something I didn't have much knowledge and experience on. So if there is a certain school that you know you want to go to, or just a school that you want more information on, it does not hurt to ask them or reach out to their admissions just to get more information about their school, and even just putting your name out there. So my interview process was very different, and I think will be different for future pre-dents. So I applied in 2020, and obviously that is when COVID was going on. So all the interviews were held online. There was no in-person activities at all, essentially. I wanted to apply as early as I could, and I highly recommend that. I think the application opens in June, and I think June or end of June is when you can submit it. I would just say try to submit it in the summertime. That way, like, your application gets in first and admissions can review it earlier rather than later. I think interviews started coming out around September. So a couple months after I submitted it is when I started hearing back from schools and getting interviews. For the most part, they were all just Zoom. We would learn about the school, and then there would be these breakout sessions where you would have 20 to 30 minutes talking to an interviewer, whether that was faculty or a current dental student. That was like the typical, I feel like, interview process for most schools, but it depends on each dental school. Some of them have like case-based questions, I think. Some of them do like the Cura assessment, and there's also this Casper test that some schools require as well. So obviously just do your research for each dental school that you're interested in and see what their interview process is like. But typically you're just talking to a couple of people, and it felt for the most part very conversational. The interview questions are, like the typical interview questions that you would expect to see. And I think prior to my interviews, I did a lot of research online, just learning how to answer these interview questions, going on SDN, I think, and just finding a list of like practice questions or questions that people remember for you to kind of jot some notes down in terms of what you want to say. I think for all of my responses, I just thought of a specific experience, talked about it, what happened and what I learned from it. And I feel like that was a pretty good flow for each question that I had. In terms of how interviews went, I kind of got a general feel of how they went after I finished talking to each interviewer. And for the schools that I ended up getting accepted into, those interviews were my favorite ones from the whole interview process. Like, I left just feeling really great about it. Like, I felt like the conversations went really well. And the ones I didn't really hear back from, the interviews went okay. Like, I was able to answer the questions, but it just didn't, I don't know, the vibes just weren't there, I guess, or it just wasn't as conversational as I imagined to be. But you never know what will happen until, obviously decision day comes out. But I recommend after each interview, I would get the emails of the people that interviewed me, and I wrote them an email afterwards just saying thank you for taking the time to interview me, because, they are taking the time from their day to get to know you and to see if you're a good fit for the school. So just showing them appreciation for that as well. That was just something that I just always did. I don't really think that adds into your application or like your interview, but it's just like a nice touch that I would just recommend to thank the people that are interviewing you. And for the interview process, I highly, highly recommend that you practice your responses before your interview. Obviously, like, you're not going to know what interview questions you're being asked, but there is a plethora of questions online. I think SDN is a really great resource that I used, and they would just have a bunch of interview questions that dental schools are likely to ask. And I think even just having a response for the most basic interview questions helps you come up with, scenarios or answers, so that when you're asked a question that is related to that, you have something that you can talk about. I practiced a lot with my roommate at the time, or even just speaking to myself in a mirror, just to make sure I was giving eye contact, which was hard to do through Zoom. To make sure I wasn't saying and like I am doing in this video. And I think just being able to say my responses and not be super awkward or have like weird awkward gaps in them because I forget what to say. Obviously, you don't want to sound robotic in your responses, but by practicing it, you're able to kind of learn how to say it naturally or just like, more gracefully. So definitely recommend practicing and just thinking of experiences in your past that help you answer the questions. So, yep, Google is a great friend. So like I said, I applied during the 2020 cycle, and that's when COVID happened. So obviously everything was online, and because of that, I didn't have to factor in the cost of travel when it came to interviews. So I applied to a whole bunch of schools, like all over. I think I was also just really nervous because I did not know how my stats like lined up with everyone else that was applying. So I just kind of applied everywhere in case I couldn't get into my in-state school. But here I am, I ended up getting in. I think a lot of people like myself end up choosing their in-state school because that is the cheapest option. Cost was a really big thing in terms of picking which school I wanted to go to. But I also just really enjoyed my interview process with UMKC. I felt like they handled the whole COVID situation really well when it came to interviews. And even being online, I feel like they were able to give a good representation of the school through Zoom. And I just remember leaving the interview feeling like, wow, like I really like this school. Like this school, like my expectations for it were very different. And I don't know, like I came out of my interview just loving it a lot more than I anticipated to. And I think a big thing that UMKC is really great at is just the clinical experience. I wanted to go to a school that just gave us clinical experience because obviously that's what we're going to be doing as practicing dentists. And it has honestly, like ever since I started as a D1, like they just continue to show how much experience they want to get out they want you to get out of. So we were already down in clinic within the first week or second week shadowing the D3s and D4s. We were down there like 2 or 3 days a week our first year. My second year, we were able to operate on a real patient, just doing a really simple operative experience. We were working on each other, learning how to scale and do cleanings and stuff. So they really hone in the clinical aspect at UMKC, and that was just something that I was looking for in all the schools that I was applying for. So I think definitely look at each school's websites, and I think there's some packet online that you can also find as well, but just figuring out for yourself like what you want out of a school, whether that's clinical experience, whether that's research or whatever, and finding a school that, you know, supports that or is really dedicated towards that. And I think that would make you enjoy that school experience a lot more. But I also will say, keep in mind the cost as well. Dental school is very expensive. And, you know, you're going to get that DDS or DMD degree regardless. So, you know, the name of the school doesn't really matter because you're just going to get the same degree. So definitely factor in costs as well when it comes to picking which school you want to go to. I have really bad imposter syndrome, and to be honest, I feel like I still have it at times, and I'm about to finish up my second year and start clinic very soon. So it's very crazy to think that I'm going to be a dentist, and literally in a matter of a month, I'm going to be seeing patients on my own. So I think the biggest transition from going pre-dent to dental was just learning how to manage time. So I took a gap year when I was applying. So that was like a whole year off from school and just being used to the constant grind and studying. And I was just really nervous starting school because I felt like I wasn't going to be able to learn how to study effectively or do well in classes because I was, you know, like a year removed from it. But I feel like that transition was a lot more manageable than I thought it was going to be. I think I kind of hyped up dental school to just be like insanely hard. And I'm not saying that it's easy. Like it definitely is hard and really stressful, but it is a lot more manageable than I thought it was going to be. I'm still able to like have free time to hang out with friends or just take breaks for myself and still be able to, you know, finish my lab work, have the time to study for exams and stuff. So I would say like the studying and the workload is a lot, but I think because you're with all these other people that are going through it, it makes it easier of a transition to just get used to it. Which kind of sounds really lame, but yeah, like you just get used to the constant grind, and you kind of figure out and you take it day by day on how to get through your classes or how to get through your lab work. So yeah, that's definitely doable. But yeah, I think imposter syndrome is a really big thing, and I still feel it sometimes. So I have to remind myself this a lot of times too, but like, you know, I was picked to attend dental school, which meant that there were people out there that know that I have the potential to be a doctor, to be a dentist. So just reminding yourself, like during those like really hard times, or when you just think that you're not fit to be a dentist, you are fit to be a dentist, and you're going to make it out of school. Everyone does. I'm reminding myself that right now during final season, but you will make it out. There are people that believe in you. There's a reason why you're in this program. So, you know, don't give up. Don't think that you are not fit to be here, because you are, and you're chosen for a reason. So typically the first 2 years of your dental school is very didactic heavy, with some labs that just get added on. For the first year, it's a lot more science classes. And then right now during my second year, it's still science related, but a lot of it is a lot more dental classes themselves, and applying the science that we learn our first year into actual dental courses and topics. But your first year, you're basically in class like all day. We had a morphology lab our first semester, which was waxing up teeth and just learning what, you know, teeth look like. And then our second semester, our first year, we had our dentures course, operative, and then occlusion lab. So they added on more labs, but you're really just like studying all the time. So, you know, in the morning, I wake up, go to school, we'll be in class all day. And then in the afternoon, I would just take a little break and then just study the rest of the night. And then on weekends, you know, I always kind of gave myself like Friday nights off just to relax and do what I wanted. And then the weekends, I was just kind of studying. Obviously, when midterms come around, your schedules will change and you'll be focusing a lot on studying for those specific exams. So you might be studying a lot more during those weeks, but there are definitely times in school, especially in the beginning of the semester, where you can kind of like relax or not, you know, be studying 24/7. But again, that is up to you and how much you want to study, but you definitely can take breaks here and there. I think in terms of credit hours, we were always taking like at least 20 credit hours, which is a lot, and a lot more than my undergrad career. I think in college, like we weren't allowed to take more than 18 credit hours. So going from 18 to 20 plus credit hours is a big jump. And something that I tell a lot of pre-dental students is that the coursework is not necessarily harder at dental school, unless like later when you're learning the more actual dental courses. But all the science courses that you're learning, you're not learning, you know, this is stuff that you've seen before in college. So the content's not necessarily harder. It's just that you're taking so many more classes and you're just trying to balance all that. And that's what makes the classes harder. So just learning how to time manage is super important, and you will definitely have to figure that out once you start, because you're just taking all these classes at once. And obviously, like, unless you have photographic memory or something, it's hard to remember every single little detail. So just learning how to study for each class and dedicating time for each class is super important. And obviously, you still have time to take breaks. I always took Friday nights off, just, you know, it's Friday night, you know, I don't want to be studying anymore, and then the weekend I can grind it out. But Friday nights are always just, you know, reserved time to hang out with my friends, to go eat, to go, you know, check something out. And our school, each class also has social chairs, so they would always kind of plan happy hours or just fun little events for our class to do to kind of, you know, relax and, you know, not focus on studying as much. So you definitely have time in your schedule to do stuff that you want to do outside of school. It's obviously your time in your schedule, so you will put time and you'll make time for the things that you want to dedicate your time to. So obviously, like, while studying is important, it's also just as important to give yourself a little break here and there. So what makes me really excited about UMKC, I think, is really just the community. I love our faculty, our administration, and the students here. I just feel like UMKC has a really great community. Everyone is always just so willing to help each other out. And that was kind of the vibe that I got from my interview process and my interview day. And I'm just so lucky to say that it was true and they weren't just like saying that in the interview just to sell us on the school. But I feel like UMKC has a really great community. A lot of my friends I met through the organizations that I'm a part of. A lot of like my friends are older than me too, are upperclassmen, so they have been just so helpful when it comes to like lab work or just helping us like study or like give us tips for each class. And, you know, even if they're not like your friend, I just felt like everyone in school, I would feel comfortable just going up and asking them for help or ask for advice too. So I just love the community here at my school. And like I said, I also just love how clinic focused our school is as well. And they just really throw you in there. You're shadowing and you're assisting super early on, and just being able to have experiences even before we start clinic as a third year just helped me feel more comfortable for when I actually do start, because I know how clinic is run a little bit better. I've done operative work on a real patient with the assistance of an upperclassman. So when I'm, you know, on my own and doing it by myself, you know, I had prior experience doing it. So I think just the clinical experience and again, like the people at my school make me really happy to be here. So my biggest piece of advice for you guys is don't be afraid to reach out for help. I think having a good support system and just having, you know, people and resources is so important in your journey. This is not something that you should be doing by yourself. Dentistry is such a collaborative field that, you know, you will always be working with other people. So, you know, learning how to work with other people and learning how to ask for help now is so important in your journey. I don't have anyone in my family that's in dentistry or in the health field at all. So I really had no idea about the ins and outs of, you know, college and just being a pre-dental student and applying to school, just all that stuff. I just had no idea. And if it wasn't for my pre-dental friends and my mentors that were, you know, a couple years ahead of me, giving me that advice and helping me, you know, read my personal statements, giving me advice on what classes to take in college, just small little things like that just really helped me get to where I am today. And, you know, if I didn't ask them for help, like my journey into getting dental school would have been so much harder. So definitely reach out for help when you don't know something or you're just like struggling. And even right now in dental school, I am just constantly asking for help, whether it's from my faculty, my friends, or again, just like my mentors and upperclassmen. Like I said, this is such a collaborative field and just so relational too. So learning how to work with others, and realizing, you know, you get to where you want to be because of yourself and also from the help of, you know, the people who are supporting you. So yeah, it is a hard journey, but it is achievable and you definitely can do it. If there's a will, there's a way. You know, don't give up if things don't work out the first time. Continue to persevere. Remember why you are interested in dentistry, and, you know, you will be where you will be when the time comes. So yeah, like I said, don't be afraid to reach out for help. If you want more questions just about being a pre-dental student, a dental student, UMKC, or anything, I'm always available to talk to. My email is clarefang8@gmail.com, and my Instagram handle is also clarefang8, so you can always DM me from there too if you want. But thank you guys for having me.